You gonna live in your sadness, or are you gonna die in it? Reminders of Him is the latest adaptation of a Colleen Hoover novel. After it ends with us and regretting you, and given how I felt about those particular movies, no bonus points will be given for how I felt when I saw the trailer for this film and saw Colleen Hoover's name slapped all over the goddamn marquee. Oh boy, there are more in the pipeline? God, movie studios, you shouldn't have. No, really, you fucking shouldn't have. But anyway, Reminders of Him was directed by Vanessa Caswell, who's done television and films like Love at First Sight. And this was written and produced by Lauren Levine, who produced I Am David as well as Bridge to Terabithia. This movie pretty much takes a plunge like Bridge to Terabithia. There's a swing in this movie. Doesn't end quite the same way as Bridge to Terabithia. If you get it, you get it. And if you're sad, you're not as sad as I was watching this goddamn thing. Anyway, Lauren Levine has written precisely one movie. This is it. Oh boy, that's always a great sign. So let's talk about the cast. Micah Monroe, oh joy, oh bliss. Micah Monroe actually seems like a smart person. I just don't know why a lot of her roles basically call for her to play somebody that seemingly has just woken up out of a soma coma, but she plays Kenna, who has been in jail for a few years for some... Look, if you've seen the trailer, you know what the fuck happened. If you have read the book, you know what the fuck happened. But I'm going to go with people that haven't seen the trailer or read the book. Kenna gets out of jail for something that was an unfortunate set of circus pants. Let's just say that. She had a boyfriend. She no longer has a boyfriend. But she was able to produce a child with him, but has spent time in jail, so that child has been taken care of by the boyfriend's parents. We have Bradley Whitford, who, yes, was in Get Out. Not nearly as creepy in this as he was in Get Out. And we have Lauren Graham. Let me save you, Lauren Graham, who still looks incredible, by the way. She plays Grace, and they have raised the child well. And there's also Ledger. Not to be confused with Heath, because this Ledger's career is alive and well. Tariq Withers, who was in the remake of I Know What You Did Last Summer, remake, requel, whatever the fuck, and Him. And much like him, Ledger plays a former football player that suffered a career-ending injury and now has come back to Laramie, Wyoming, Paradise, whatever the fuck it is. According to some people, this actually wasn't filmed in Wyoming. I don't know how true that is. I've never been to Wyoming. It doesn't look like there's anything to like or really get into in Wyoming. It's just plains and everything. Plains, trains, and more plains, and just cows, I assume. And no cows in this film. There are adorable kittens. So at least we get to hear and see kittens mew a little bit. That's a bonus. I'll give them that much. But yes, Tariq Withers, who plays a former football player here, also plays an aspiring, soon-to-be pro football player in Him. So I choose to believe that this is reminders of Him, girls. So anyway, yeah, let's just connect these movies into the same universe. In more ways than one, because if you know how I felt about Him, that is not a compliment. Anyway, so basically Kenna wants to reconnect... pick up the pieces, pick up the pieces, and get her life back together, but also see the child that her and Scotty created. But of course, life will get in the way, but will love conquer all? So yeah, that's about it for, but I realized I just gave away pretty much the trailer, but I really couldn't spoil much of anything in this film, because if you have seen the trailer, then you've seen everything that fucking happens. And that's the biggest issue with the marketing of this. It is for people that read the book. Now, if you read the book, tell me how much different it is than the books, because I'm not going to read anything by Colleen Hoover, especially given what her son may or may not have done. But it seems like he's a naughty little individual. But this film was marketed insanely. Like, it was getting to the point I was sick of hearing the goddamn music in it. And by the way, the soundtrack in this movie is absolute dog shit. It features way more versions of Yellow by Coldplay than I ever wanted to hear. Lainey Wilson, country star in the sense that she has that twangy country music. There is a twangy version of Stand By Me that made me wish that that particular singer was the body in Stand By Me. I don't know why I decided to be mean here. Oh, I know. It's because Colleen Hoover either is a writer with a select audience, or she has just somehow found people and put them over a barrel, going over Niagara Falls, unless they fund her projects. Now, to be fair, It Ends With Us was wildly successful. August 9th, 2024 was the release. I actually had a chance to go see it in theaters and didn't end up seeing it because of traffic issues and stuff like that. Thankfully, I didn't, because I ended up hating It Ends With Us. Audiences didn't, though. $25 million budget, $50 million opening, $50 million. It already guaranteed that Colleen Hoover's next project was going to be made. More on that in a bit. $148.5 million in the US and Canada. So, okay, it started to cascade down a little bit and everything, but still, that's pretty goddamn good. $351.4 million worldwide. For that shitty goddamn movie that dealt with a serious subject matter, DV, and the controversy between Blake Lively and Justin Bardani. I don't know who's totally right and who's totally in the wrong. Justin doesn't exactly seem like the best guy. Blake just seems like she's also a little bit difficult to work with, but I digress. If Justin truly did all the stuff that he did, he should go to jail. But that was wildly successful. And then Regretting You came out October 24th of last year. I have a hard time believing that that film came out less than 5 months ago as of this recording, because it certainly seems like it was a lifetime ago. Had McKenna Grace and Mason Thames. I still find it hard to believe that's McKenna Grace. It's just, I'm going to see her, as the one that was in, Annabelle Comes Home, as well as the two Ghostbusters movies. But shout out to her for platinum blonding her hair. Also, she was in Slanted, another movie that I recently reviewed. Saw it as a mystery movie. Didn't like it. Find out how much I didn't like it in the Go to the Real Honest Movie Reviews playlist. Regretting You did cost the same, $25 million. $13.6 million opening, so not great. They probably should have opened it in September or perhaps August, but a $48.8 million US Canada gross. So basically like $100 million less than It Ends With Us. And $90.4 million worldwide. So it still was successful because it only cost $25 million. I don't know if that includes marketing or not. Even if the marketing was $8 to $10 million, it still turned a profit. But now the question is, will reminders of him end up basically turning any kind of profit? I think that this will land somewhere in the middle. It'll do better than Regretting You, I believe. It won't do as good as It Ends With Us. At least I don't think so. But it is being released in March, which is a much more fair month for films like this. I do also want to shout out one other cast member. Monica Myers is Lady Diana, who's an advocate for, actors with disabilities. For, I guess, she happens to be a little bit disabled in the labeled sense and everything, but I will say that she's about the only character I liked in this movie because she at least tried to have some personality and actually bring this material to a little bit of life, because Micah Monroe certainly didn't. Basically, there's not a lot to get into with this, but I'm going to dive into some spoilers here in a little bit, but this is a film that will please fans. This is a film that people will enjoy. This is a film that if you are into this kind of story and you want to get sad about it, maybe it'll hit you in the feels, but that means you just need to go out and watch other movies, because I'm sorry, this is so Hallmark-esque and so bland and banal and shot like shit. It's weirdly impressive that this film had at least some kind of budget. I mean, I would assume 25-something million, because not only does that seem to be the baseline, but they're fairly decent actors in this, and it seems like they put some effort into it. It just looks like shit. But God, every story element is just so bleh, and it limps to its finish. In typical Hallmark fashion, everything gets wrapped up in the last 15 minutes. So that being said, I am going to get into spoilers. Yeah, there's not really a lot to dive into, except for me to rant on. So anyway, 3, 2, 1, it's in theaters now, and spoilers. There you go. So yeah, way more versions of Yellow than I wanted to hear. So we start off with Kenna getting a taxi and pulling the cross out of the ground. And it turns out to be Scotty's cross because that's where he passed away. And she has a record, so she has a hard time getting a job. She does manage to actually have enough cash when she got out of jail, though, to basically get an apartment at a place that this lady runs it, and she's irritated with this guy that keeps playing his electric guitar, and it turns out they used to date. But also, if she takes a kitten with her, because apparently they refuse to get their cats fixed, then she'll even leave the electrical on for a few weeks until she can get back on her feet. And Lady Diana, Monica Myers, kind of, attaches herself to Kenna in the sense that she's like a little sister. I do want to say, again, that's about the only character. The kitten's adorable. I had to come home and hug my cat after that. I mean, by the way, the kitten's fine. Nothing actually happens to the kitten. I actually was worried they forgot about the kitten, and then she was feeding the kitten and taking care of the kitten. But she's looking for a job, not having a whole lot of luck. She ends up at this bookstore that her and Scotty liked. And who's working there? Tariq Withers, who plays Ledger, who is the best friend of Scotty. And he has been helping take care of Diem, D-I-E-M, the daughter. I do have to say the little girl playing the daughter, she does fine as a little kid actress, but that character basically is like, the end game. Like, Kenna wants to get back, and just see the child that her and Scotty created. But what they basically end up going with is almost like an instant romance between her and Ledger. Now, it takes about an hour for things really to kick in, but it's like very obvious. Sparks are flying. She also has a bunch of journals where she has written letters to Scotty. She has kept other stuff and everything, a lot of journals, because she feels guilty for what happened. I'm going to skip ahead as far as what happened and what led to all this stuff. The idea is that it was a DUI. She pleaded guilty to vehicular manslaughter because it turns out that Scotty was still alive when she left, even though she thought he was dead. They were celebrating his birthday. They ended up having a blown tire, basically, and tumbled out. She managed to get out, couldn't get him out, checked his pulse, thought he was dead, was looking for help, but nobody would come help her. And then she was blamed for it and everything. Did you know he was still alive? Nobody would help her. Nobody would pick her up and everything and stuff like that. Again, I don't know if that's actually how the book goes. I don't really fucking care. But we do get some nice bonding moments between Ledger and Diem. Oh, it's like Carpe Diem. Oh, seize the day. God, I felt this movie took like a day to get over. But that being said, they live across from each other, him and Scotty's parents. Also, because he's a former NFL player, he was able to have some kind of signing bonus money, whatever, even though he blew his shoulder out. We see this in flashbacks where he had really silly hair. And I still think Him was a better movie than this, which is saying something, because this is just so bland and Hallmark-esque. But we do get some flashbacks with Ledger and Scotty, like where they're high in the old, the old fort, playground set, and they were high, and he thought that it was a pigeon, but it was actually the baseball glove. And the pigeon thing ties back to a freaking pigeon, the thing from the Princess Diaries. And also, this, old fort thing, playground, is being built, taken out of storage for Diem. Kenna is trying to get a job. She is able to get a job because this one other girl, woman that works there, takes a liking to her, even though the manager is like kind of a full-on dick. Having worked retail, trust me, I get it, a lot of people can be dicks. She ends up essentially getting this job, but she's struggling to make ends meet, but she's feeding the cat, she's taking care of that, and the tenants there seem to like her, including the landlady, but things are getting tough. And since Ledger owns this bar and works at this bar, he offers her a chance to work there in the weekends, earn a little more money. And he doesn't know she took the cross, by the way. A little bit later, he finds out about that. And backtracking a bit, Ledger wasn't always around because he was focused on the NFL. The Denver Broncos, I think going to the Denver Broncos is pretty good, but all this stuff is going on. Kenna has these journals. We get these weird flashbacks. We find out how they met. It was like at this Dollar Den thing, like, Dollar Tree. essentially, and he was trying to buy plates. Bought one plate and then bought another plate. And by the way, it was twice. I'm just trying to get the courage to ask you out. Oh, we can't date customers. He goes to return them. And then they end up dating. And they do end up, getting close enough to where now she's carrying a kid with her. We get another flashback where she gave birth to the kid. The kid was born early, and the kid apparently needed medical stuff, but she couldn't see the kid beyond giving birth to it. Now, I know, for the love of God, she took a plea and everything, but it turns out she actually didn't mean to kill her significant other, and it wasn't a DWI thing, even though I think they had edibles and stuff like that. Both were on this stuff, and nobody helped her, so just going on the movie. Again, I don't know how the book went. Colleen Hoover also seems to love car crashes because Regretting You had a car crash, besides being a car crash, and this has a car crash. Maybe she'll write an adaptation of the movie Crash, where people get turned on by car crashes. That was an actual movie that came out in 1996, by the way. 95, 96, I'm not kidding. So, as we just merrily roll along, essentially she keeps trying to see her daughter, and eventually Grace and Patrick catch wind of this and decide to serve her papers. Now, meanwhile, this romance with Ledger is building. He's got a dream house he's building out in the woods, but he doesn't want to leave DM. And they're getting, him and Kenna are getting closer. They're getting closer. And then eventually they do get completely close, where he does find the cross. She feels bad. But she's like, he didn't like memorials and everything. You would know that if you were there. This kind of stuff. A lot of this dialogue, these dialogue exchanges just aren't good. But they do end up eventually hooking up and whatnot. And it's a whirlwind romance. And yeah, I'm skipping over certain things because I don't really necessarily. Too much of this was hilarious. The soundtrack, again, so bad. That twangy version of Stand By Me, that person needs to be just taken out of every recording studio ever. And those versions of Yellow, including Coldplay's version of Yellow, no, we don't need to do that. And, by the way, also, Kenna's upset because, music is just all sad and everything. But the reason that she's about sadness is she was in jail, and then there was a fellow cellmate named Ivy who saw she was, should be nursing, and says, well, you're going to die or live in your sadness, or you're going to die in it. And now she decided to name the kitten Ivy. So that was kind of sweet and everything. I thought Ivy was played by Frances McDormand for a second. But that being said, Frances McDormand would be too good for this movie. But nevertheless, Lady Diana also is around. Again, sort of amusing character. And eventually, like I said, the papers get served. Her and Ledger are together, and then they are caught by Patrick, and Patrick is like, oh, what the hell is this? Because he goes to the dream house thing. So then Ledger tries to go and apologize, and boom, Patrick hits him a few times. Yes, okay, your son's dead and everything. Probably shouldn't hit the bit, whatever. Whatever, it's okay. We're almost done with the movie. It's fine. Kenna decides she's going to leave. Just pack up everything and leave. Ask the kitten, you want to come with me? Yeah. Kittens don't know. At least she was going to take the kitten with her. I thought she was going to try to get the kitten back. But Ledger basically is trying to get her to stay. And then Ledger is like, you were wrong about her. We've taken the worst moment of her life and made it who she is. Because she told him about all that stuff. All the stuff I just said about, how Scotty died and everything. How she felt guilty. And he took the journal that had that in there. And he handed it and said, read it. Read this. Everything else is private. Read that particular one that I marked. And they did. Grace showed up. And this would have hit so much better if the movie wasn't so bland and stupid. But she says, I know it wasn't your fault, and as much as I should hold a grudge, I can't. You can see your daughter, but I can't promise more than one meeting. She sees her daughter, and it's sweet. The kid, knows, oh, you are my mom and everything. Oh, wait, what's your name? I didn't catch, because she hadn't known her mother. And it's not like they said the mother was dead. The mother just needed to get a bigger car and everything and stuff like that because she was 5. They didn't want to really spoil it for her. But plays, it's fun, and then sees Grace. Excuse me. Grace is upset, and essentially, they hug, and now everything's fine. I guess Patrick and Ledger came, to an agreement. Well, actually, they did because Patrick said, you've never, if you say she's good, that's okay with me. And there we go. And then they're having some fun. They plant the cross. They, back there. The daughter asks about her father and everything, how good of a guy he was. And then that's it. And then we play ourselves off, and that is reminders of him. God. I don't know how many more Colleen Hoover adaptations there are going to be. Considering there was like 14 months between the first two. And there's just 5 months between this. I wouldn't be shocked if we get another one sometime in October, but I don't think we're gonna. I don't know what other books she did, but god damn it, this was just so bland. I just gave a surface level thing, because so much of this movie is hilarious for all the wrong reasons. And there were people crying in the theater, and God bless them, but I just don't see how. Reminders of him gets an F. And by the way, it ends with us and regretting you got Fs, and this... It meant well, but it was just so bland. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and until we see a better adaptation from a much better author soon, please be better than this, happy trails to you.